Okay, good evening. My name is Susanne Koenig. I'm the director here, and welcome to the Powerhouse Arena. We're extremely excited to have tonight the book launch party for Brooke Hauser's book, The New Kids, Big Dreams and Brave Journeys at a High School for Immigrant Teens. We will have, Brooke Hauser will be reading from her book, a passage from her book, and then we'll be in conversation with Francis Flaherty. And we will have a short Q&A afterwards. And let me briefly introduce Brooke Hauser. Brooke Hauser has written for the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Allure, and Premiere, among other publications, and she's originally from Miami, Florida, and now lives in New York and Northampton, Massachusetts. And Francis Flaherty has worked as a columnist and editor at the New York Times for the past 17 years and is currently the deputy editor of the home section. He has written for Harper's, Atlantic, Commonwealth, and The Progressive, and is teaching journalism at the New York University. We will, just a quick housekeeping, please turn off your cell phones, and as you probably have seen, C-SPAN BookTV is filming the event tonight, and for the Q&A, we will be passing around a microphone, so if you could wait, please, for the microphone to reach you, and then ask your questions so we can film this accordingly. Thank you so much, and now please welcome Brooke Hauser for her new book, The New Kids.
So as Suzanne said, we're here to discuss Brooke's new book, and it's about, just to give a capsule summary, a high school in Brooklyn called the International High School, which specializes in the education of immigrant teens. And Brooke spent much time at the school, chronicling a year in its life and the life of its seniors. And I wanted to, Brooke will do a reading of a portion later, but I wanted to ask a few little introductory questions. The first of which is, Brooke, you're an experienced journalist. You've written a lot about Hollywood and about film. This is a subject matter that's far afield from that. How did you come to this topic?
Actually, the person who led me to the international school is in the audience. His name is Ronnie Saha, and we went to college together, and he was working at the International Rescue Committee, which is an agency that helps to resettle refugees across the country. And at the time, his girlfriend, Lauren, I think, was interested in doing some volunteer work with some of the students at the Bronx International High School. And I heard about the school, and I became very interested in this idea of a high school where kids come from so many different countries and speak so many different languages and are all, you know, I don't want to say they're all trying to become American, because not all of the kids are, but they are adapting to the country while going to high school. And so then I found out that there was an international high school in my backyard, which was the International High School at Prospect Heights. And that's how I ended up at the school. Could walk there from my apartment. Great.
For me, at least, for this reader, the standout feature of this book is its factual richness. It's, to me, an example of really good immersion reporting like Barbara Ehrenreich or Adrienne Nicole LeBlanc. You can tell, like everywhere, that from the depth of detail, how much time was spent collecting, interviewing, recording, thinking. And so I naturally wondered, how much time did you spend? How many days were you at the school? How many students did you interview? And how did you decide what was enough?
Right. I don't know how I decided what was enough. I think that my desk decided what was enough, because it was basically caving in with all of my notes. And I spent a lot of time at the school. I was there for an article that I wrote for Frank was an editor at the city section at the New York Times, and I wrote an article about the prom at the International High School. And so that was the first amount of time that I spent there, a few months. And then I went back for the book and spent a year reporting, but then the following year I was still in touch with the kids, and then the following year I was still in touch with the kids and reporting till, you know, basically it went to the printer. So it was a lot of time, a lot of notes, and my life was on hold, basically, until it was finished.
At the International High School, something like 28 languages are spoken, or were, at least in the year you reported on.
Yeah.
That must have been a reporting challenge for you.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
I took a lot of aspirin because I think the teachers can relate. It's really, really loud at the school. You know, it's loud at any high school, but when you hear 28 languages at once in the halls, it's just, it's amazing. So the kids were a huge help to me because several of the students who I wrote about were already very, very proficient in English, and of course their native language, and some spoke several native languages, and they were translators to me. So anytime I ran into a translation problem, I didn't have to hire a formal translator, I just asked a kid.
As a, how many students are there or at that time?
Something around
class?
400. The school had been in existence for 4 years, and I was there, I think, the 5th year. So the class, the student body kept growing. But now I think it was the biggest class ever that was just accepted this year. And it's something around 400 students now, I think, right? Yeah.
How, among all those students, did you choose the ones that you would talk to and interview and then write about in your book?
I had a question that I asked all of the teachers at the beginning of the year, which was, when you go home at night, who are the students you can't stop thinking about? And really the teachers led me to find these students. And one girl from China had written a college essay about coming to America. Her very first week, she was supposed to move in with her father, who she hadn't seen in years. And when she got there on her first day, her new stepmother basically didn't want her there and kicked her out. And she was, when I met her, living on her own in a room that she rented in Chinatown. So for one English teacher, that was the student that she couldn't stop thinking about when she went home at night. And every other student I basically found that way, except for a Burmese girl who I found because she, I wanted to observe a new student. And I really just ran into her on the first day of school and found it very interesting that she was the only person in the whole school who spoke her language. No one else did. So I thought she would be an interesting person to follow.
Right. The, I know many of these students, like the Chinese girl you mentioned, had very dramatic passages from their native country to America. And I believe, isn't that the subject of your reading?
So I'm going to read, so many of the kids have amazing stories, and the one I wanted to read is about a Tibetan boy named Nawang who left Tibet as a little boy, escaped by hiding in a suitcase to travel to the border of Nepal. And so he and I worked pretty hard on his story to get all the facts straight. And so that's what I'm going to read.
I was just going to hold it for you. Oh.
Okay. Okay. Get in, the man said to Nawang, motioning at a small suitcase on the ground. It was the fall of 2003, about 2 years before Nawang would arrive at International, and they were standing on a quiet side street in Lhasa. Nawang looked at the man and back at the suitcase. The man was his father's friend, a farmer with a wide, tanned face, sewed with worry in the encroaching dawn. The suitcase looked very fancy, black nylon with a plastic handlebar, rubber wheels, and metallic zippers. Nawang had never touched a suitcase before, and he inspected it closely. There was some Chinese lettering on it that he could not read. The main compartment was only about 2 by 3 feet, the size of a child's coffin. Nawang was small for 11, but he wasn't that small. He thought the farmer must be joking. The black suitcase would soon be one of many bags stacked in the back seat of a beat-up silver Toyota that was supposed to deliver Nawang to the border of Nepal, the first leg of a journey that would end in Dharamsala, India. In the tea-colored light, Nawang could make out a few tired faces, older Tibetans who had paid to drive out of Lhasa before the capital city stretched out of its slumber. He was about to join the others when the farmer motioned again toward the suitcase. Get in, he said, unzipping the top. Nawang stared blankly at the man and the suitcase. "Hurry," the farmer said, "before the police come and take us to jail." "How long?" Nawang whispered.